less traveled areas in North America to hear their expertise. As we get going, if you want, you can share where you're joining from in the chat. I see some of you are already doing that. You're well trained to participate in that. I'm in Denver, Colorado. And I'm going to begin just with a land acknowledgement. That's something that's really important as we hold space for these conversations. At JourneyWoman, we strive to be a place where all feel welcome. We are committed to creating the safest place possible with the intention of helping to unearth the true value of each person who joins this community. We wish to acknowledge the land we are standing on today is the traditional territory of many nations. And we wish to acknowledge and thank the first people of this territory and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us so that we can continue our work today. Okay, well, I'm so excited. Again, you can continue to share where you're joining from in the chat. We've got people from, looks like a little bit of all over, some others joining from Colorado, Vancouver, Toronto, Portland, one from the UK. Our panelists today represent all different areas of North America. We're going to be joined by Jeannie Ralston, Jennifer Spatz, Stephanie M. Jones, and Isabel. And I forgot to ask how to pronounce your last name, and I'm going to say it wrong. So when you introduce yourself, you can say it correctly for us. I'm going to turn it over to each of our guests to go ahead and share who they are, their name, their company. I'd also love for you to share 1 or 2 sentences about why you started your company, as well as something that you think makes your company unique. And I'll get it started. Let's see who's popping up first. Isabel, you can go first and you can pronounce your last name so we know who we are.
My last name is Hood, so it's quite easy to pronounce, Isabel Hood. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. While I am not necessarily a travel expert, I work at Le Monastère des Augustines, so I am in the traveling business, especially sustainable travel and mindful traveling. Le Monastère des Augustines is a hotel in Quebec City, where it was the first hospital in North America, north of Mexico, that was transformed. The project, the Augustinian sisters gave their whole monastery to the population so that we could reconvert it to today's needs. So we are a nonprofit organization that welcomes also caregivers, but it's especially a haven of culture and wellness for everyone to enjoy.
There next, please.
I didn't hear that.
Stephanie,
Oh,
can you
okay.
introduce yourself?
Happy to. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Stephanie M. Jones. I am the former founder of Cultural Heritage Alliance for Tourism, CHAT for short. I started CHAT almost 10 years ago in South Florida to address an unmet need, partnering with small Black and Brown activity operators throughout South Florida, working with them to curate Black cultural heritage tours that amplify rich Black history and culture throughout the South Florida area. We also expanded to do tours throughout South Florida, the Fort Lauderdale area, the West Palm Beach area. And then we got into planning multi-day Black cultural heritage tour itineraries, again, that amplify the rich cultural heritage of Black communities throughout the Southeast region of the United States. So although my company is no longer doing tours directly, we now represent over 60 Black tour companies and tour guides throughout the US, as well as parts of Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean, who are tour operators, and they provide Black cultural heritage experiences. So I'm looking forward to sharing more about their tour product offerings here in the United States.
Thank you, Stephanie. Jeannie?
Hi, I'm Jeannie Ralston, and I founded Next Tribe 7 years ago, but I started it as a digital magazine for women over 45 who are aging boldly. So that's my background, is magazine journalism, but I've also been a travel writer for Condé Nast Travel, Travel and Leisure, and New York Times. So part of what I started doing is, besides publishing the articles, I started offering some trips because I just loved getting, together with these women who were reading the magazine. And the first trip I did, it was to San Miguel de Allende in Mexico, where I lived for 4 years. And it was such a success that we started offering more. And I started off by offering places that I knew really well from my work as a travel writer. So that included a less traveled beach in Mexico, Troncones, which has become a yearly beach retreat, and then Charleston, South Carolina. And then it's just started growing from there. And now we do, like this year, we'll do 18 trips. About half of, more than half are international, but I'm committed to doing trips in the United States and in Mexico, because I know Mexico so well. And also because in the United States, we do some like 4-day long weekend trips, because I want people to have the chance to come on some of our trips and kind of understand what the Next Tribe vibe is. Our motto is age boldly. So we're a bunch of women who are like, yeah, we still got it. We're still adventurous and exploring, having fun, seeing new things and meeting new people. So I wanted them to get that spirit and discover some of the places in the United States that aren't necessarily well-traveled, or if they are well-traveled, finding things that go beyond the tourist facade, what you see as a tourist, getting them into people's homes, meeting local women who are our age, who are doing interesting things. So that's kind of what our company has become, mostly focused on travel. We still have our magazine, but it's really, we're all about travel and bringing women together in a community.
I know that Jennifer is going to get excited when you said San Miguel de Allende, because I know it's a place she loves. But Jennifer, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, please. And you're muted, Jen. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Spots with Global Family Travels, coming to you from Seattle, the Pacific Northwest. My company, Global Family Travels, I founded 15 years ago. I recognized at the time there wasn't a lot for families to really dig deeper and immerse in the culture. And since then, we've added many trips for both families and women in about 20 different destinations. We started in the Himalayas, in the small village behind me that's near and dear to my heart in Ladakh, India. Still go back there almost every year, but also have launched some local tours in Seattle, as well as San Miguel and other places. And I guess what makes us unique is we partner a lot with nonprofit organizations to kind of really who take the lead in taking care of the destination and the community. So destination stewardship is really what we're seeking to create cross-cultural connections when we travel. So I'll leave it at that. I know there's a lot to talk about. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I'm really excited to hear from all of you. Just as a reminder for all of you listening, we're going to have a few questions. We'll open it up for audience questions, and then I'll talk a little bit more with our panelists, and then we'll have another spot for Q&A at the end. If you think of anything, you can also always drop it in the chat and we can address it as we're going, if it flows in with what we're already talking about. And as you mentioned, in the context of less traveled places in North America, we're also thinking about different ways to experience those places as well. So even if you are in a busier city, there's great ways where you can get a little deeper, as Jennifer was saying, and understand destinations in a different way. So I think all of you have expertise that we can, begin to explore this region in that way. I would love to start by talking about North America as a destination. If any of you wanted to share, why you see it to be such a valuable destination for travelers, maybe things that they wouldn't have expected, or experiences that you've had that maybe caught you by surprise that were really valuable. And any of you can answer. I'm not going to point or, make anyone go.
Well, I'll just say that this is for instance. So we do a trip to New York City, and you would think, okay, that is about as well-traveled as you can get. But we focus on downtown New York, and I used to live in the East Village. So we don't even go above 14th Street. We meet women artists and writers and go to some speakeasies and things like that. We have put on a little show at a small theater, the humorist. So so I think that the idea is you can go to a city that has a lot of tourism, but there are ways to focus on neighborhoods or focus on certain segments of that city that really can give you a whole different view. I mean, last year when we did the New York trip, some people were like, well, I don't know, I've been to New York so often. What can you show me? They loved it. I was taking them to places that even, some of my New York friends had never been. So we really work hard to get people to show you a side of a town that is, and I think that's kind of the key, is to just go one step beyond what you might see if you were just walking around a well-traveled city on your own.
I
Yeah.
agree with Janine. The tours that we do and focus on, I want to talk a little bit about the why we focus on amplifying tour operators and tour guides that provide Black history, Black cultural heritage tours in the U.S. One, because there is Black history in every state in this country, often overlooked, often underpromoted, because for those of us who are tour operators and work in this industry, it is very much a pay-to-play industry. And if you're a small business and you can't afford to join your local destination marketing organization, or if you cannot afford to be at IPW, the largest travel trade show that happens annually, then oftentimes people don't know about your tours. They don't know about your business. So you're not going to attract the foot traffic and the revenue from tourism that's coming into destinations, and is most often going to those mainstream attractions, those that are most known and most marketed by destinations. So we really want to encourage travelers to be intentional when they travel, to seek out experiences that really do take them into off the beaten path communities and parts of the destination. Why? Because one, there are some really dynamic tour operators that provide some cultural, immersive, and really authentic experiences for people to understand and learn about the rich African-American history and the different cultures in our country that represent Blacks in this country. Secondly, because we already know that our industry and most destinations are dealing with over tourism. I live in Orlando, and there is always, plenty of tourists coming here for Disney. But when they come here, they don't really visit, other destinations or little known areas right outside of Orlando, like historic Eatonville, which is the oldest African-American incorporated town in the country, right outside of Orlando. So there's a lot of rich history that's hidden in plain sight in destinations that I think travelers, especially inbound travelers, would be interested in exploring, other parts of destinations that are really going to give them the full American story. And so the tour operators, Black tour operators and tour guides that we work with, they provide these local, authentic, cultural, immersive experiences that really allow you to go into communities, to become immersed through the music, the food, the art, the dance, the language. And I'll talk and share more about some of these local communities within U.S. destinations as we continue this conversation. But we're asking people, especially travelers, whether you live here in the States, because many people have never ventured into, Black communities or neighborhoods, or patronized Black businesses, or taken Black history tours, and they live here in the U.S. So we're encouraging people to just step outside of their comfort zone. They're missing out by not really learning more about the diverse cultures and histories that make up this place called America.
I'll piggyback off of that, Stephanie. Since we live in the Pacific Northwest and actually in Washington State alone, we have 32 tribes, Native American tribes, and so much rich culture to learn from our indigenous peoples. I'm an anthropologist at heart, so I love learning about that history. And we have so many national parks here as well. So that connection to our indigenous people and our conservation of our lands, I think, is a really important part of, when you're visiting a destination. Go to the national parks, but also visit some of the tribes museums and things that are Washington State, Oregon, and a lot of other, Alaska, have tons of museums that you can visit. So that's one thing that we love to help people do when they come to the Northwest.
And I was just in Portland, Oregon last week and loved it. So you have some really wonderful attractions, and just the beauty of that land is a gorgeous place to visit.
And I'll just add, when we're talking about that, for instance, when we go to Charleston, we do our Charleston trip, I've sought out this wonderful woman who's a Gullah chef, and we go to her home. She cooks for us. We learn about Gullah community, and people are just awed by it. And I think that what you're saying is so important, Stephanie, that we see there's so much that we're not recognizing when we go to these towns, like in Santa Fe. You see all this stuff in Santa Fe, but we do a cooking class on a pueblo where we cook in a little kiva oven and learn about the culture of the Native Americans who populated. I mean, so much about Santa Fe you think is glamorous galleries and beautiful brown adobe buildings. But I want to make sure that we take people to something else, something a little deeper. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Can I just piggyback, because I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to really quickly, because you brought up the Gullah Geechee community in South Carolina. We actually curated a multi-day tour, Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Tour, from Charleston. We go to Charleston, Beaufort, St. Helena Island, and we end to Savannah. And just so everyone who's on this webinar knows a little bit about the Gullah Geechee community, these were the enslaved Africans that were brought over from West Africa over to Charleston and Savannah. And so even today, whenever I go to St. Helena Island, I feel like I'm going home. Just the level of hospitality, it's genuine, it's authentic. But the fact that the Gullah people who are descendants still live in parts of Beaufort, St. Helena Island, and they have preserved their history and culture through their food. And so if you ever have the opportunity to take a tour, whether it's our tour or anyone else, visit that part of South Africa, it's really a unique experience to really gain more knowledge about the Gullah Geechee culture. When we think about how many of us eat rice for dinner, rice was actually brought over from West Africa, and Charleston became one of the richest cities from the sale, of rice, which West Africans, they brought their traditions on, growing rice. And so again, there's a little known history, about the contributions, of African American and enslaved Africans who were brought to our country, who have made such significant contributions that we all take advantage of every day. So I just wanted to give you a little background on the Gullah Geechee community.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk too long because we've spent a lot of time on that question, but I did mention before I said Quebec City. I hope you all know that it's in Canada. And of course, we often think of Canada for the natural landscapes and the great outdoors, but there's also lots of cultural diversity that can be discovered at the same time of mixing with the nature. And well, of course, it's also a very safe place to travel as a solo woman as well. And with the friendly people, there are lots of places where it's possible to really meet the communities and to be involved in the local activities as well. So I really think that that's something that's to discover as well.
Yeah. Thank you for adding that. And thank you all. This makes me really happy. This is how I love to think and experience travel. So I love hearing everything that you've shared so far. I also shared, Jeannie, you started talking about, the areas of New York that most people don't go to. Tenement Museum I went to was one of my favorite experiences I've ever had in New York. I was so moved. I didn't know if I wanted to my heart to explode with empowerment or sob, or it was this way of understanding the culture and the place of New York that I never have had that awareness in that context. So I think these experiences and the way you're talking about them are really, really important for having a different understanding of the country that we come from. I think as travelers, we have this curiosity when we go somewhere far away. We dial up our curiosity, but we forget to dial that up when we're home. I also grew up on an Indian reservation in Montana. And so, that's something that's really special for me. And when I travel, I think I carry that lens with me because it's a context I'm familiar with. But I think as we travel around the country, we might not think always about, who was here first or how was this place influenced, who else contributed importantly to the culture of a destination, especially here in North America. So I really appreciate your perspective so far. For those of you listening, if you want to share, I've kind of been dropping links as people have mentioned things. If there's some place you've been and loved, share it with other people here so they might get some ideas for similar types of experiences. The next thing that I wanted to talk about are some of the lesser known places maybe you've traveled to. You've already mentioned, a little bit about this and ways we can travel differently. But if there's a place that you've been, a festival, a off-season destination that maybe people wouldn't expect, I'd love for you to just take a few minutes to share about those. I know some of mine in Montana, and I drive from Colorado to Montana multiple times a year. So I luckily find these little towns all of the time that I just randomly need to get gas or take my kids to the bathroom. But then it ends up being this beautiful, unexpected discovery of something, again, that's in a place that I wouldn't have thought to travel to. So in Wyoming, I found some great cities. In Montana, there's a few destinations. There's one city, I don't know why I use that word. I think it has a population of 11 people year round. It is not a city, but right outside of Glacier National Park, called Essex. And it was meant to have been another entrance into the national park at one point. And I worked in a small inn there for a while, and the hiking was so beautiful. You were so close to the park, but you weren't in the chaos of the park. And that was a place that was really special to discover. I still love to go back there. But I don't know if any of you have places where you've traveled in North America that just kind of caught you off guard, or were something that you always think nostalgically of or refer people to when you're traveling.
Well, I'll say Marfa and Big Bend, Texas. I don't know if a lot of it is it's one of our favorite trips, but it's a really difficult trip, meaning it's hard for people to get to because it's 7 hours from Marfa is 7 hours from Austin. But I love it so much because it's this most improbable art center, has huge art following a famous artist, Donald Judd, settled there. And now it's this dramatic art city, and with a high desert. So I just feel like that kind of a place, trying to get people there, because some people have heard about it, but they don't know how to get there. They're so small. They're like, what is it all about? But we get them into people's homes, artists' homes. And then while we're there, we go down to Big Bend and do some hiking, and then cross the Rio Grande in a rowboat, and then ride horses to a little Mexican village for lunch. And there's hot springs, there's petroglyphs. It's a kind of place, you think of West Texas, in the desert, you might think it's just barren and what's there to see, what's there to do. It's gorgeous. It's so invigorating. And the things that we do are just kind of show a different side, not the West of cowboys and stuff, but the West of people really digging in, trying to make a living, and trying to appreciate this territory and let it inspire them in their art.
Thank you. Oh, we lost Isabel. Hopefully she'll be back. Jennifer, did you want
Okay,
to add?
Mary. Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously living in the Northwest. Get out and about a lot, and the Olympic Peninsula is, it's a well-known destination, which I encourage to visit during shoulder season because it is busy in the summer, but so many beautiful national parks or a national park. You can do a full circle, spend like 3 or 4 days stopping at various small towns, Port Townsend, lots of art galleries, shops, lots of history. We have a lot of ferries going from Seattle to different islands as well. So like Whidbey Island, Camino Island are two other beautiful spots that I highly recommend. They're seaside towns that are filled with just lots of fresh seafood and just ways of living that kind of take you back a little bit. But I also just want to encourage again visiting lots of like Chief Seattle is actually there's his he was born in Whidbey Island and not very far away. You can take a ferry over to Bainbridge Island and visit the Squamish Museum and learn about some of the tribal history there. So those are some of the things that I loved. I actually did a big trip with my family at the end of last summer, and we went all the way to the most northwest tip of North America that you can visit outside of Alaska. And that was just gorgeous. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Sure. I think I want to address this question by first, I want to acknowledge in 2026, the U.S. will be celebrating, what is it? How many years? America 250 years. It's 250th anniversary through celebrations and commemorations. And why is that important? I think it's important because if you live in the US, it gives you an opportunity to really be intentional about not only celebrating because, I think, Jennifer, you mentioned, the Native American and tribal communities that offer such rich history and culture, but also, they were the founding, communities of America. And so I think it provides an opportunity for people who live here in this country and even folks who are visiting to be intentional about not necessarily celebrating, but commemorating, those who helped lay the foundation, for our country, such as our Native American communities and African American communities. Okay, because I think a lot of people don't think about the fact that when enslaved Africans were brought to America, they were brought here to build America. They built they were brought here to build America. And I don't think we think about that. But I also want to challenge and encourage, particularly, white Americans who may not want to have these cultural heritage experiences because of, thinking that, oh, I don't want to talk about slavery because, it brings up the fact that, yes, perhaps some of your ancestors owned slaves, and that's just our history. It's the reality. And I know sometimes it's not a nice reality to relive, but it is our history. Even in the slavery, it's part of, as a Black person and Black people in America, it's our history. We can't forget it. And so we should be open to having the conversation and talking about it and learning about it. But what I want to say for all of the tour operators, Black tour operators who talk about Black history, they are speaking from an educational perspective, because we know today in our country, there's so much division. So being intentional about taking tours that give you the opportunity to learn more about Black history, Native American history, will help to build the bridge of division in our country. So I just really want to encourage people as you're traveling and thinking about places to travel, don't be afraid, to take a Black history tour because you'll learn something. And in most cases, you'll leave feeling empowered and just gaining more understanding about people who are, your neighbors, who you go to school with, who you work with. And so it can only help us as individuals and humans in this country just gain a better appreciation for each other, our differences, and, our similarities. So I just like to always say that, because I know oftentimes when I was a tour operator, a lot of people thought that Black History tours are only for Black people, but it truly isn't. And so I encourage us to step outside of our comfort zones and really explore the full American story, because it can only help us, especially today, to bridge some of the gaps and divisions that, is taking place in this country among different types of people, different ethnicities. So I just wanted to say that. I may not have answered the question, but I just always feel that needs to be said, because I feel it's a missed opportunity when we don't really explore all that this wonderful country has to offer.
Thank you, Stephanie. I know I just interviewed Martinique Lewis from Black Travel Alliance, and she was talking about the app that she has. And we specifically addressed that, how important it is that not only Black travelers are exploring those destinations, those connections, and those experiences, because it's really important for the understanding and experiences to be shared across all races and as all travelers are experiencing these destinations. So I think it's really valuable. So thank you for adding that. I do want to open it up. If anybody has any questions, we'll take a couple here before we talk a little bit more about group travel and additional experiences in North America. A few of you have shared about some places in Sedona, Arizona, Hopi Mesas, the Desert Botanical Gardens. Let me see if we have, I can't see if anyone's raising their hand. I don't know, Esther, if you can help me with that, or if anybody has any questions we could answer. Oh, someone was saying it's hard to hear me. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why. Not seeing any questions pop up, so maybe we'll just keep going here. But if anybody else has any questions, please just put it in the chat.
Someone just sent me a direct question, and I'd like to address it if it's okay, because I think it'd be relevant to everyone.
Sure, Stephanie, go ahead.
They were asking if there are any Black History tours in Ohio. And what I'd like to say, again, this past March, my nonprofit, CHIA, Cultural Heritage Economic Alliance, we launched the Black Tour Operators Network in March of 2024. So like the past 6 months, we've been aggregating all of the Black tour operators, tour guides here in the United States. So starting July 1st, through our website, experienceblackculture.com, you'll be able to go to that website and find all of the Black History tour guides, their tour offerings on that website. Now, we're not selling their tours. We're basically just helping travelers and tour operators who want to partner with them find them in one location. So
I definitely want to look into that for, even improve our Charleston trip. I really love knowing about it.
Yeah, because again, since we're not doing tours, we want to help our tour partners access as many opportunities, and for people who are looking for a half or a full day or even a multi-day tour operator. So even though we're no longer doing our Gullah Geechee tour, we have a tour partner that's now offering that multi-day tour. So July 1st, we should have all of our partners, so it'll be over 60, maybe more than that, Black tour companies and tour guides, and we'll list their tours, links to their websites. If you want a direct, if you're a tour operator and you want a direct introduction, because you're looking for a tour operator to partner with, which we would appreciate, allowing Black tour operators to tell our stories, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to make an introduction.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
I think it's interesting that the someone asked about the Spanish Mexican contributions in the West. I think that's a really good, made me think, oh my gosh, we should do something in San Antonio or whatever with based more focused on that. But that's a great point.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just going to read that question as well and ask if any of you had any insight or any experiences that you were familiar with that address that history in the region. And I can't say that I have had that experience either. So I can see that we're all noticing a gap in the experiences that we've had so far. Let's see. Thank you for sharing your link, Stephanie. Well, some of the other questions that we had were really more addressing benefits of small group travel versus traveling on your own. And I know as all of you have or do lead group experiences, is this something that you would like to talk a little bit about? I know that we've talked about this here on JourneyWoman webinars in the past, but maybe just talk about why that's valuable in this area in particular.
Well, I just think it's because we, as tour operators, can find the place, easily get you into the places that you might not, you can't just go knock. I mean, it'd be nice if you could, but you can't just go knock on someone's door and go, I want to know more about you. But we can find the people who can shed light on these areas. And what I like to say about Next Tribe is that I call it that, it's group travel for people who don't necessarily like group travel. And what I mean by that is that we allow a lot of flexibility. And my feeling is that most of the women who are on these trips with me they're able to take care of themselves. So I'm not going to coddle them or make them, be in lockstep with me. So I try to find that balance between, if we're talking about solo travel versus group travel, I'm trying to find that balance where you can feel independent in many ways if you want, but then when you're, want to be with a group or experience part of what makes the group so special, it's available to you as well. We don't lock anyone down into doing everything with us, or you can go off the path, the itinerary if you want. So I think that it's just that as a group, you have some security, you have more access, you have friends to go over the, at the end of the day, you can be at dinner talking about what you've experienced. And so you're still meeting, which is one of the benefits of group travel of solo travel is you meet a lot of people, but we like to think that you meet a lot of people in the context of our group because you're surrounded by like-minded women. So I'm hoping to get a balance there.
I'll piggyback off of that. Global Family Travel's tagline is expand your family circle. So when you travel, I mean, no matter whether it's by yourself or with others, we are trying to connect people. So you become extended family, either people you've met when you travel abroad or the small group of people you travel with, and kind of fostering deeper connections within the community. And I, having traveled on a lot of small trips, group trips myself, I often find that in a small group, I'm getting outside of my comfort zone and feeling safe to go whitewater rafting or something that I wouldn't normally do by myself, with a small group of women, or traveling to India. We specialize in travel to India, and that is a place as a single woman, it's challenging to travel by yourself. So it's actually great to go with a small group of people and experience things. And at the end of the day, you can come together and share, your observations and all of that as a small group.
Chris Bettman asked, what is a small group number wise? I think maybe everybody defines it a little bit different, but I know for me, I usually have 6 to 8 in my groups, but how about you?
8 to 10 about, we kind of have to cover our costs. So we say 8 to 10 to keep the cost of the trip down and covering the guide and all of that. So, and we don't want to be hiring a big tour bus. So smaller vehicles.
I say 10 to 14, and 14 is usually our max because of like transportation, like Sprinter van. You can get in a Sprinter van. Usually it's a driver and 14 passengers. So that's how we usually do it.
And we've done 10 to 12 passengers.
Another question came in that's from Hester that says many tours are either physical adventure focused with a high level of activity versus cultural. And she would love to find something that's more balanced with hikes interspersed with culture, food, and art, which actually I think if I know all of you, that's what you're already doing. I know that's what I really try to do too. So they're definitely out there. I would say that the JourneyWoman tour directory is a really great resource. All of you have, points where people can connect and find those experiences. But I think people are really striving to find that balance in creating group tours these days, like realizing that it's just as important to be immersed in nature as it is in culture.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And we often say if you don't want to go on the big hike of the day or a yoga class at the beginning of the morning or at the beginning of the day, you can skip it or, mix up if you're for those who, want to stay back and not be always doing something with a group. So.
Yeah, thank you.
And for instance, like in our, we have a beach retreat in Troncones in Mexico, which is my favorite beach in the world. And I wrote about it for the New York Times travel section, and then I worried I ruined it, but it still is as beautiful and quiet as possible, as you can imagine. But so we have some people there who just, all they want to do is lie in the hammock, and that's perfectly fine. And then we have people who are doing boogie boarding, horseback riding, hikes, kayaking, it's like, snorkeling. So it's that whole spectrum. And I think that what we try to respect is that every woman comes to a trip with a different goal, a different intention, whatever. And we try to make it as flexible for each person as possible. And so they can get what they want out of it.
And I'll say, for our itineraries, whether it's a day tour or a multi-day tour, we know that people don't want to pay for a multi-day tour and just be bombarded with history for 5 days, 7 days. So we are intentional about making certain that the itineraries, reflect on history, but also have ample contemporary experiences as well, such as a wine tasting, going to a Black winery and having a wine tasting, or going to a national park and doing, having a hiking experience, or going to a Black art gallery and having a paint and sip experience. So you're still, being immersed in the culture, but just through different ways. So I just want people to know that our itineraries are not just pounding you with historical, yes, that's important, but it also infuses a lot of contemporary experiences where you get to meet, local business owners, because we're dining at Black restaurants and it's not always soul food. We also have, Black owned restaurants and chefs that provide healthier options. And we're intentional to find a good mixture. Yeah, you're going to have some soul food on our itinerary, but you're also going to have different culinary experiences as well, because we want to showcase the vastness of our culture and, not just, what the narratives that have been created about African American and Black history in our country. So you get a broader range of activities and experience that bridges the past to the present.
And I found there's sometimes you can find things that merge both. They're both in nature and they're kind of cultural. And my most fun find recently is in my new hometown of Asheville, North Carolina. We go with this foraging company and we go hiking in the woods, and the guy is expert at like berries, mushrooms, nuts. And so you're hiking, but you're with a purpose of finding food and getting explained of what, sassafras, how the local Appalachian culture made sassafras tea and those kind of things. And then everything you forage during the morning, you take to a restaurant in town and they serve it up as part of your dinner that night. So, I mean, that's kind of thing was like, yes, it hits a lot of notes there with culture, nature, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I love,
I want to add one other thing. We oftentimes do photo trips, so teaching you, like, as you're traveling, discover the culture and visit some of the sites and learn photography, like travel photography at the same time. And San Miguel de Allende is one place that we've always done a photo tour to. We do one every year, so love that city.
yeah. I love hearing the intentionality. I think this is something that, travelers who are joining and listening maybe don't hear often. They see the beautiful itineraries, but they don't know what goes into making all these choices. So I'm loving to hear that. And like Stephanie was saying, every choice is a possibility for supporting your values, supporting what you believe in, creating the impact you want to create. And that might not always be obvious from the outside, but I think it's great to see that there's a lot of intention in this group and how they're creating experiences. There's a few more questions here that I want to try to squeeze in, and then I want to allow you a little bit of time before we end our session. We've got about 12 minutes left of our webinar, which has flown past. And I don't know what happened to Isabel. I'm so sorry. I saw someone asked. I'm hopeful that maybe she'll be able to get back on. One of the questions was, I'm retired and finding that group travel is out of my budget. Any suggestions? Someone commented to try Quebec City. I think one option might be day tours, single day group experiences. But I know people offer trips at all levels, but Jennifer, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, we oftentimes, we have to vet them, but do homestays, and that drives down the budget to stay and support local community. And it's obviously in the U.S. it's a little different than doing a homestay in a small village in India, but that is it does actually help a little bit drive down the cost. And Cuba is another place you can stay in, local, community casa particulares, or the homes people own, and support local people that way as well. So I would actually recommend Cuba as a destination just for that reason, because they need tourism to support, their economy right now big time. So
yeah,
Yes.
thank you. And Esther shared the links to everybody's pages in the JourneyWoman directory. So if people are listening and curious about what you're hearing, you can definitely visit their pages to find more information. Stephanie, someone asked if you could share perhaps the Black-owned vineyard. They were curious about that. I don't know if that's
Yeah, I
information
just
you have on hand.
posted that there are several Black-owned
Okay.
wineries, vineyards in the Napa Valley area, but they will also be listed on our website, experienceblackculture.com, when it launches in July 1st. Plus, there are several Black winery tours, even Black hiking and winery tours. So those will be listed on the website. So just if you want to go to the website, there is a form at the bottom where you can complete that. And then when the tours and the tour operators are listed, then you'll receive an email letting you know that they're now available.
Great, thank you. If there's any last questions, you can drop them in the chat. I'm going to give our panelists an opportunity to just share something that they're most excited about happening in North America in 2024, an experience that you're offering, or 2025. I know we're getting to the edge of this season. People are probably starting to think about next year already. But if you wanted to each take a moment to share, I would love to perhaps start with Jeannie.
Well, I'm just so excited about discovering these places besides the, internationally, we do India, Morocco, Cuba, Paris, Portugal, Italy, those are different things, but talking about expense, we want to have these domestic trips because it's a chance to have a shorter, lower priced destination and still get a lot out of it from around the, not hard to travel to. Some people drive to these destinations. We have a Santa Fe trip coming up. We do a Colorado adventure trip, but it's sold out for the summer, but it's Salida, Colorado. And that's another, place that is, it's not right there, it's not Aspen Vale. It's kind of a little sleepy town in Colorado. And then Santa Fe, I'm really, every year I'm excited about Santa Fe because we really dive into Georgia O'Keeffe culture. And we feel like, our motto is age boldly. So who else can you think of that aged more boldly than Georgia O'Keeffe? So we let her inspire us, but then we also appreciate the nature in which she operated. And we do, because of my time in San Miguel, we have 3 different trips to San Miguel, 2 of them right over Day of the Dead. That's where this will be our 8th trip for Day of the Dead. And again, since I've lived there, I know a lot of people there. We go to my friends' homes, we get drinks there, and we go to a friend's ranch for a charro demonstration. And I think of San Miguel, and maybe Jennifer has seen this too, that there's so many layers to it. I mean, we have fun, we drink margaritas, we have our faces painted and do a Katrina parade. But then we also, because it's Day of the Dead and we're trying to understand a different way of thinking of death, we make our altars and bring things for our loved ones who've passed. So we have a very intimate moment where we talk about our loved ones, and we try to expand not just our minds about death, but also the way we support each other. Because at this age, we're women 45 plus, we've all had losses. So we want to support each other through that. So it's, that's one of the things that I always look forward to my San Miguel trips. I mean, it's just for me to get back to one of the most beautiful cities in the world, right on our doorstep.
It's beautiful, Jeannie. I'll just because I actually stayed in a hotel during Day of the Dead in San Miguel de Allende, right next to a cemetery, and I like the flowers that were outside of the door of my hotel and the altar in my hotel, and it's just so spectacular, the culture around celebrating ones who have passed. So it's beautiful. Yeah, we're doing a photo tour with actually Lisa Merrill, who's I think part of Transformational Travel, next year in San Miguel de Allende, a beautiful photographer in April. And I'm excited about that because we did 2 this last year, and we have a ton of beautiful photographs of those who participated to share. So there'll be lots of inspiration coming soon on our website and Instagram. And then during the pandemic, so some of you probably know Sophia Heiderhock. She is a dear friend of mine, and she and I put together 2 retreats around the 7 chakras, the energy centers, and each day is a connection. Like you ground the first day with the Black Farmers Collective in Seattle, and connect to your first chakra, but also ground in the earth with the Black farmers. So that is a retreat that we're actually bringing back this fall in late September in Seattle. And each day is connecting to community, but also connecting to an energy center. So that sounds a little woo-woo, but it's actually time to connect to yourself, regenerate yourself, and help regenerate community. So those are two destinations that I'm excited to share retreats for. I could go on and on about India, Bhutan, Peru, other places, but I know we're focusing on North America here. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie, did you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, I'm really excited about positioning our experienceblackculture.com as the go-to for Black tour operators and tour guides, not just in the US, but we already have tour operators from different parts of Africa, as well as the Caribbean and even Europe, that are part of our Black tour operators network. So we're really looking forward to aggregating all of the Black tour operators around the world into this one platform so that they could be found, and people can book tours and book groups, and tour operators can find partners. And so that's what I'm really looking forward, is leveraging this platform to help sustain and scale and build profitable Black tour companies.
Thank you. Well, I think we're just about at the end. We have just a couple more minutes. Let me just check through our notes and see. Someone mentioned Oaxaca as well for Dia de los Muertos, which I was just there, and that was so good. I agree. That was another beautiful destination to experience that. Also, Esther, someone asked if they can get a copy of the chat. I know a lot of content has been shared there during this webinar. I think that usually we share that, but if you can maybe make a note. Let's see. Well, I also wanted to share really quickly. I have a trip coming up that I'm leading in Alaska next March that I'm really excited for. It's 63 miles north of the Arctic Circle. at an off-grid retreat property, and the northern lights are really stunning there. But we also spend a lot of time connecting with, again, another village that has about 11 people year round. I guess this must be my thing. But we meet with them and learn about subsistence living, what it's like to, be in that area. One of the people we connect with has lived there since he was 4 years old. So he talks a lot about like gardening and canning and just the lifestyle, which is really amazing. And his wife we meet with, as well as hear about some prominent women who were in the area, which is really unique, I think. And then I have a workshop coming up talking about understanding your travel values and using those to really find meaningful and enriching travel experiences for you, which I think after listening to all of you speak, I think people might be really excited about that, because you've spoke so much about honoring your values through travel. I know that's something really important. Let's see, I'm not seeing any other questions, so I think we are right at an hour. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much, Jeannie and Stephanie and Jennifer, for sharing your expertise and your wisdom about the region. I know everyone can connect with you afterward. If they have any questions, they can find you on the JourneyWoman tour directory. And
Yes, and thank you for having us, and nice to
Thank
meet you,
you.
Jennifer and
You
Stephanie.
too, Jeannie and Stephanie. I've heard so much about you, so it's been such a pleasure. Thank you, Christine.
Likewise.
Likewise.
Thank
Okay.
you. And Esther did mention they'll be sending a follow-up email with all of the information that we've talked about today, as well as a link to this recording. So you can go back, and if we went too fast through anything, you can catch it and find out more information as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.